Welcome to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and on this show, we interview the movers and shakers in the world of property development and real estate. Now, before we dive in, this show is supported by something very few developers have quietly been using to get their projects funded and get sold faster. Now, that's without touching those early 3D models. It's early, it's clever, and it's changing how people view off-prem property. So I'll leave it there. But if you're curious, message me on LinkedIn at Glen Palmer online or check out the show notes below. Now, on today's show, we have Ethan DeSota. Now, he is a contractor, a developer, and a founder of Exponent Construction Group. Now, that is a company that is focused on building durable, sustainable, and genuinely affordable housing solutions in the US. Now, alongside running Exponent Construction, Ethan is also involved in an education industry development through, is it called Etc.? I like that, by the way, which basically helps professionals stay ahead and evolve building standards and market realities. Ethan, warm welcome to the show. Glad you could spare a few minutes to chat with me about your expertise in the construction industry. So let's dive in, shall we?
Let's dive in.
So, Ethan, first one. If time travel became a reality and you had a chance to go back in time to when you actually first started your career, what advice would the person that you are now actually tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self two things. I would say, get a mentor as soon as you can. I think youth assumes that it knows far more than it does. You know, I feel like I get dumber and dumber as I go, but I think you get smarter. You just realize how much you didn't know.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I would say get a mentor, and I would also probably go back to that kid and say, hey, what you think will be the key to winning in this industry, which at the time I thought it was just hard work. I was a hard worker and I could outwork anybody.
Mm,
Is not the key. I would have told my younger self that it's all the things. It's the paperwork, it's the marketing, it's the executive decisions, it's all the things that you didn't think were part of running a business. That'll be the things that really you need to pay attention to.
yeah, of course. Yeah. And I was having a conversation with another guest just the other day, and they were pretty much in the similar boat, when you're young and when you're, you're a teenager, just starting out your career. I didn't listen to anybody. I thought I knew bloody everything, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and another thing is, yeah, get yourself a mentor. Um, and it's very easy to follow. Like I heard a long time ago, and I didn't really register it when back then, but it was, find someone that has been there before you, that has been there and done it, because success breeds success, basically. So, find yourself a mentor, find someone that who has been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and learn from them.
Right.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So, Ethan, your mission is centered around building environments that are not only comfortable, but they're sustainable and they're affordable as well. So, from your perspective on the ground, what are the biggest structural problems in the US today that are making that affordability so difficult at the moment?
Yeah, I would name them on one hand. The first structural element, I think, is we flipped our mindset in the last 150 years from a home being a producer to a home as a consumer model. So go
Mm,
back 150 years ago, you owned a piece of property and it produced for you, whether it housed your grandparents or it housed the next generation or it housed the cow that you milked.
mm,
Um, it was part of what made your family be able to fulfill its dreams. But then, World War II, the crowning of the industrial age, most Americans, instead of being producers anymore, had jobs. They moved into situations where the home was simply a status symbol. It was a thing that they cared for.
Mm.
And as they cared for that, instead of being so much of an asset, it began to move toward the liability column. It was grass to mow, which is different than lettuce to grow.
Yeah.
Um, and it and 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 we spent and we began to build bigger and bigger. We were in the era of cheap utility power, and so we built to the standard we felt we were ascending to.
Hmm.
With that growth, there came a new era in American property that started to get built around zoning.
Yeah.
And zoning really crushed the American spirit in a very quiet way because in the past, if you let's say you were ostracized or you'd gone through a bankruptcy or you went through a divorce or you weren't part of the local church, it was very easy to get cut out of community life. But the beautiful thing about America was you could move, to the next town over, or you could move west. You could set up. There wasn't zoning. You could envision what your new business would be. You could start it and do it and
Mm.
build a place for your family. And as zoning came to be, we began to decide what you could do on your property, what you couldn't do, who could live in a neighborhood. And zoning was really built around racial and class efforts. Who do we want to keep out? Who do we want to keep in?
Yeah.
Protecting property values as a consumer. And so as we moved from, the producer model to the consumer model, as we began to have restrictive zoning, um, we took away the possibility that someone used to have to cut some sod out of the earth, pile it up, build a temp home, and start from nothing. And we began to gradually increase that nothing to where the average price of a home in communities in New England is 550 to 600,000, which
Yeah.
means that you have to have an income that is 50% greater than the average family to even afford a starter home.
Ah,
So
man, that's shocking.
short history. And we could go into more detail, but I guess it was the descent from producer to consumer, zoning that began to X out the ability to start over and start again.
Yeah.
And then on top of zoning, although I'm a huge believer and I teach code, I think um, I think we have moved more and more into the realm where only professionals, quote unquote, can do things.
Mm.
And so it pushes the ability of a common person further and further out to kind of make their own start. Now that is all changing. I believe modularization, I believe some of the new things that are coming in right now in terms of technologies are putting power back in the hands of the people. And
Yeah.
I think we're on the verge of a revolution that can take it the other way.
Yeah. I mean, I was speaking to a guest, I think last week or the week before. It's not been published yet, but he has a phenomenal outside that he wants to get robots to build a modular house
Yep.
um, and plonk it on a piece of land. And then let's say for various reasons, the area's not that great anymore, and you want to look for another piece of land. You look for another piece of land. You get the robotics to come in, disassemble it, flat pack it, and ship it to another piece of land. So taking your property, your home, and putting it wherever you want. And I think that was phenomenal. I'd love to see it work. I'd love to see it work. I mean, the amount of people that I've been speaking about modular homes and how, especially in the US, how modular homes are slowly becoming a part of the infrastructure. I think is a great idea. Not only for the environment, but for the speed and building houses in a warehouse and then flat packing it, taking it and building it on site.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal. So yeah, the Exponent operates in a design build environment. You're walking across planning, budgeting, construction. How important is it, Ethan, to integrate design and construction early on? So if developers want to control the costs, avoid those expensive surprises that normally come late in the project, how do they do that?
Yeah, I think design becomes an absolutely essential element today, with the advanced codes that we have and
Hmm.
the requirement that most communities have that a project be fully envisioned in detail before it starts. Um, there's been a traditional design disconnect here in the US. Designers and architects are this field over here, and builders are this field.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is often the designers end up designing something that is out of realm for the builder to build from a budget perspective.
Yeah.
And so, um, and the designers and the architects tend to build to the American dream model. If you dream it, you
Yeah.
can have it. But then reality hits the road when you start to build. So the reason
Yeah.
we took on design build was to really help people understand the connection between design and build in terms of cost, and to also really educate people around what they're actually looking for. People are looking for, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're looking for
Yeah.
security, safety, we're looking to ascend that hierarchy, but we've been sold, I would say, our modern society has sold us a bill of goods around what will make us happy.
Mm.
What what we tend to think will make us happy is how we compare on a scale with others, which actually just further exasperates our misery. And so what
Yeah,
we
it's a weird.
we really try to work with people to help them understand a better designed, smaller home, that is more affordable from a tax standpoint, that's more affordable for an energy standpoint, that's more affordable to build. You
Mm.
might put a little bit more into it, from a square footage basis, because you're building something that's actually human oriented, right?
Yeah.
And not ego oriented.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you are able to achieve sustainability, which is sustainability is how long can you survive without artificial inputs like banks or jobs. And so the closer we push that envelope to a longer survival period, the more at home in our skin we feel, the more relaxed we feel, the more we can breathe. And it's not for everybody. Some clients are like, no, we want what we want. We're going to make
Mm.
more and more money. Give us the 4,000 square feet. But for those who will hear it, they begin to settle and feel and find that, the sort of home that can be achieved can be sustainable, can be affordable, can be beautiful.
Yeah.
But we do have to set aside some deeply held beliefs to get there.
Yeah. And that's the problem. We have been brought up like, I love this saying, we have been tattooed by our tribe early on. In life, and our beliefs are so ingrained sometimes that it is very hard to see the outside picture. We are believe like the American dream, for example. You can come to America, you can have a big house, you can have this, you can have that, but in reality, it's not always the same like that.
Right.
So yeah. Bolting on to what we've discussed, we're seeing a huge interest go globally in your sort of ADUs, your modular homes, and the smaller housing formats. So, do you see these as temporary solutions, or do you believe that they actually represent long-term shift on how communities are actually built?
I think they represent a long-term shift on how communities are actually built.
Yeah.
I think for thousands of years of history, this has been the norm. I think what we're in with the large house era, the live like a king era, it's a temporary anomaly. Um, eh, what we might call what we've considered a peak culture moment, but it has been attendant with loss, bankruptcy, suicide, all
Yeah.
kinds of ills that we didn't think it would come with. And so I'm really looking forward to, and we see it in younger generations. We see younger generations starting to be like, hey, man, if I could emphasize lifestyle, my ability to travel, my ability to enjoy my life, my ability to be and live and enjoy friends and family, and I could de-emphasize the white picket fence,
Mm.
but find something that's sustainable, safe, secure, I would take that. Now it's a fight with zoning. There are communities that zone out anything under 1,200 square feet. Now it's a fight with how do we bring those initial development costs, like, here in New England, the cost of land, the cost of septic, and the cost of well can take you well north of 200, 250. And
Yeah.
so,
Wow.
and you haven't put your tiny home on it yet.
Yeah.
So, you're still over 300,000 by the time. So there are some solutions around density, maybe pockets of density in oceans of beauty that we need
Hmm.
to get to. Um, and so I think a combination of zoning and also maybe some code offsets where we recognize the value of a smaller footprint in its smaller energy demand and maybe
Yeah.
lighten up on some requirements that are really hard to hit. I am not sure I totally believe in the house as a spaceship model. I think that it has some long-term consequences. Um,
Hmm.
and it also makes us incredibly dependent on, call it virtual lungs in homes that have points of failure that we haven't explored yet. I
Yeah.
think getting back to a little bit more natural approach to controlling our energy costs is going to have to be part of the mix at some point.
Yeah. I think, and that's the thing with the younger generation today. You know, they are seeing a sort of tipping point now with the environment, and we're having to do these things. You know, we're having to sort of watch our consumption. We're gonna have to start watching our CO2 levels and all of this sort of stuff, and all the energy that we are producing at the moment. So I think we are at the pivot, and I think they are starting to think now of more economical homes, more homes with sort of the solar power and the wind turbines, generating their own energy
Yep.
and making it more economically friendly, making it the well, the whole 9 yards, I think, is the shift is changing, and we're going to have to adapt to it. So yeah, so one now moving on to technology side of things, one of the biggest challenges developers face is sort of helping investors, planners, sort of, and buyers visualize projects before they actually exist. Now, from your experience, how important is visualization technology today? Like the digital twins, your different 3D models, your immersive walkthroughs, when it comes to sort of securing approvals, getting funding, or getting the early buyers approval and buy-in.
I think it's of paramount importance whether it's a physical representation that you're helping people visualize or a financial representation.
Hmm.
Anything we can do to help a client or a bank or a partner envision the future. We're humans. We buy stories, we buy dreams, we buy visions. And the
Yeah.
clearer you can make that, the more likely it seems in the mind of the buyer that they will receive that. The other
Yeah.
thing that it really does for us in a multicultural society, which I think is a wonderful thing, by the way, I really believe that we are strengthened through diversity.
Yeah.
Um, but, we have a multiplex of subcontractors all across the US, but especially in the Northeast, from different countries, different backgrounds. And the beauty of visualization, if it's done correctly, is that words become a little less important
Hmm.
because we have pictures that can guide our efforts to work together towards this is what this should look like.
Yeah. Yeah. And then looking sort of, 10 to 15 years ahead, what do you think will define successful housing developments? Would it be sustainability, which I'm assuming it would, density, smart infrastructure, new building materials that haven't been discovered yet? Or is it going to be something totally different?
Yeah, that's a great question. I never claimed to have a crystal ball, and humans are unique in their ability to go a different direction than maybe I thought. So,
Yeah.
with those caveats, I think we are going to, I hope, I'll cast this as vision casting. I hope we are going to move back towards natural mimicry. We
Hmm.
have an amazing world around us that is incredibly sustainable
Yeah.
and generates its own power in the most unique ways. I think there are promising technologies and the most promising ones I see are not the ones that fight nature, but the ones that work with it.
With it. Yeah.
So I trust that as we move on through this century, and maybe it takes longer than we think, but I think we're getting there in places. We will move towards more natural systems. We will find ways to develop that work with the earth, that work with our lifestyles. We will begin to prioritize um, how we will begin to prioritize true sustainability, which is not necessarily just about solar or green energy. It's truly about how do we make survival easier and less stressful, less
Yeah.
full of fight and flight for the common man.
Yeah.
How do we settle them into a place where they can stop thinking about, you know, their next meal or defending their lives against whatever threat is coming their way, and they can really start thinking about the next generation, about, the dreams that they have of art and, those sort of things. So that's my
Mm.
vision casting and my hope. I believe the technology and the will could be there to get there.
Yeah.
Um, I can never be sure which way we'll bend it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I would hope that vision as well, to be honest. Yeah, more sustainable. I mean, I'd love, I often speak to my wife when we're having conversations about the world and where we are at the moment. Just going off, finding a piece of land, living off the land, and becoming self-sustainable. But then I think, man, that's going to be hard work, and my knees are not that great for manual labor anymore.
Yeah.
But,
A- And
uh,
I don't think it'll mean every person a gardener. But I do see so many promising technologies emerging, whether it's in water conservation,
mm,
whether it's in using natural materials to
yeah,
build, on-site materials. Um, I think um, green roofs, so many of the things that seem to be almost science fiction in the past are
yeah,
very doable. We build with the Perfect Block often, which is it's a recycled concrete and foam block. It
nice.
uses one third of the concrete of a regular ICF, and it is a completely 100% recycled material. And with the price of wood and various things, it is actually less costly now to build with that than to build with traditional framing.
No, man.
And so I just think there's a bend happening that could be very good for us if we can cross that Rubicon.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, thank you very much. Loved you having on the show. Really enjoyed the conversation, not just about the construction side of things, but the community and the sustainability. Again, thanks to my listeners and viewers of YouTube as well. Ethan, just before we dash off, if listeners or viewers want to get in contact with you, learn about what you offer at etc. or Exponent Construction Group, what's the best ways for my viewers to do that?
They can do two things. They can go to exponenthomes.com, fill out one of the forms. Um, they can look up the Freedom Foundation, which is a couple of books we've written and some education we're doing for homeowners around these concepts to help them.
Nice.
And or they could simply just email me at edesota@exponenthomes.com.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Ethan. Really appreciate that. And just before we go, this episode was supported by a PropTech visual platform that is changing how forward-thinking developers plan, pitch, and sell. It's not mainstream yet, but it will be. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, you know exactly where to find me. You've been listening to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and I was joined today by Ethan DeSota. Thanks again for listening or watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.